Welcome back to another episode of the Occasionally Accountable Mother Freaking Podcast.
Yes, welcome busy.
Perm.
Yay! Another week, we're back.
We doing that thing. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. I'm good. I mean, I feel like, to be honest,
I don't know how I feel.
Literally, but I'm gonna save a little bit of, keep our business behind the door a little bit. But no, honestly, I feel like I am doing pretty good. Even when you enjoy doing stuff, sometimes you don't want to always do it. So I mean, I'm good. I'm doing good. I'm feeling good. It's a beautiful day today, so I'm excited to maybe get outside a little bit and enjoy some of that vitamin D.
Hey, do
what
your
about
thing.
you? How are you?
Still tired. That's what that is.
Yeah.
I'm excited that in April I will get to I'll probably go. I'm pretty sure I'm going to Atlanta, and Atlanta's a good space for me to go. Just like
you be around trees, hella, when you're in Atlanta.
Go be around trees. Go be around my tribe. Go be around babies that I love, and I'm probably gonna take a week off work and take a week off all this because I'm ready to take a little bit of a break.
I feel that. Is this Becky's birthday month? In April?
April is, yeah.
Hell yeah. So happy birthday, Becky, our producer of the show. We call her Big Sausage because her last name's Salami. We don't call her that. We don't call her Big Sausage. I just made that up. We don't call her that. But happy birthday, Becky, our producer. Happy birthday month, Becky. I'm going to get kicked off the show, guys. This is my final episode.
Lord Jesus.
Oh,
Lord
gosh.
Jesus Christ. All right. So this week, we're going to keep it a little bit quicker, I guess. But I wanted to talk about, being okay with, feeling your feelings and not, skipping over it. I'd had a conversation a couple weeks ago with Lex. Shout out to you, Lex, because I know you're going to watch this and listen because you're a real nigga. And I was expressing to him something that I had been, irritated or frustrated about. Actually, a lot of things in life. We were just kind of having, a session. It felt like a therapy session. And I remember I had, expressed it all and then tried to in a way tie it with a bow, be but I know, this is this or that is that, or my ego's playing here, or blah 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 blah. And I was trying to hurry past and get to what the mature person is supposed to say, and realizing that he kind of after I kind of got everything out, which was nice, he kind of was well, first of all, it's okay that you feel this way or you feel a way about these things. Yeah. That's absolutely okay. He's what we do past this is, a choice that you can make. But, it's okay to feel that, and it's okay to acknowledge that you feel it. And you have to acknowledge that you feel it to be able to really, move past it, because anything else would be considered suppressing it. If you don't take the time to really sit in it and feel it and mess around in there and see what's in there, then the reality is honestly that you're just suppressing it to bypass it so that you can look like a certain person rather than really being that certain person. Yeah. And I was well, first of all, snatch a wig if you want to. But it made me think that, sometimes I think when I have tools that in my head are this helps me with my emotions or whatever, it's I just need to enact the tool immediately. And all of it is just an attempt to, either not have to feel the discomfort or sadness or frustration or anger or whatever the thing is, or to, speed it up and speed up the process. When in reality, everything is nothing natural in life is quick. Right. So I would like to kind of ask you first, what do you do to avoid having to actually sit in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to do to avoid. That's the fun part. Yeah, I think for me, one of the things that I noticed about myself is that I use food as a mechanism of avoiding tough feelings. So, like, low-key, I use food as a lot of for good feelings and bad feelings. But
that's real.
Yeah, but I would say, like, if I'm stressed or anxious or whatever, like, I'll like turn to like, ooh, I'm gonna get my Chipotle bowl, or ooh, I'm gonna go to start, like, you want to like treat yourself so that you don't feel sad. I noticed that now, especially because I have, stopped smoking for this period of time, and so like now it's not that I'm not coping inappropriately, it's that I'm now choosing something else to cope with, and that's been helpful for me to see that, like, anything misused can be a coping mechanism if you're using it in replace of feeling the feeling. But right now, what I'm noticing is that I like have been gravitating toward food a lot more than I normally.
Is it specific type? Is it like sweets or anything, or is it just anything? Anything that's
like
just
anything
delicious,
comfortable and delicious.
Yeah, any kind comfort food. I guess it is comfort because it's comfortable. That's real. Interesting. So, like, do you think that that's like a social thing? Do you think that like a lot of people do that, or is that like a black thing?
For some reason, I kind of feel like it might be a black thing.
Because I feel like when we talk about comfort food, we're talking a lot about like soul food and shit like that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not trying to argue that I don't believe that there are people outside of this race who cope with food, cope with using food. Obviously, that's not what I'm trying to argue. But I'm wondering if it's like embedded in our culture a little bit more.
That's a good point. I never thought about that. I instantly started thinking about Soul Food, the movie Soul Food. I think for some reason, a lot of our like trauma there's always like a food element to it. Like, I don't know about you, but like funeral food at a black funeral is like the best food. It's like funeral food might be better than Thanksgiving dinner. It arguably,
hot take.
It might be. It might be. So I don't know what that's about, but I do see that a lot in black culture for sure.
That's real. I didn't think about it that way, because I also think about, like, I feel like black grandma, I can speak to my black great grandma. She for sure was like, get that baby off that milk. That baby needs some real food. The baby's like,
Literally,
half a day old. Like just popped out the pussy 4 minutes ago. And she's like, giving adult food and shit like that. And it's like when the size of the baby is a certain way, the baby's crying or whatever. So I'm like, I wonder if our mechanisms for like comfort come from like, it's like that's kind of part of our
I think in black culture, like, food is really close to community. Like, anytime we're eating, it's with a family not anytime, but most times if you're eating, it's like with family or a group of people, and being with people can bring comfort. And so I think maybe sometimes we associate that with the actual act of like eating, that like maybe the eating is the comfort. But I think in black culture, I do see like community and food being really closely related as well.
That's real. Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, like, we always trying to get niggas together over food and drink.
Absolutely.
That's kind of like low-key what we do.
That's our thing.
That's literally our thing. That and some dances.
Yeah, line dances. Man. Community.
Man, I went to the Black Canvas event and the Tamia song came on, and I was like, I'm about to sit my ass down.
We gonna learn it one day. I know the steps, but I don't know
none of them middle steps.
I get overwhelmed by the daddies who are really hitting it. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I don't know it like that. And then I get confused with cha-cha slide. And then all of a sudden I'm doing the wobble, and now I've messed it up. So, but I'm going to learn it one day.
Like, but here we are. Shit. That is hella funny. That's hella funny. And then I wanted to also consider, like, are there certain emotions that you have a harder time dealing with than others? Like, are you more willing to deal with sadness than envy? Or are you like more willing to deal with anger or sit in and work through anger versus, I don't know, disappointment?
That's actually interesting because, like, yeah, hard feelings are hard to do, but I'm noticing, like, good feelings are also sometimes hard too.
Mm.
Like, happiness is sometimes hard to sit in, and, like, I don't know if it's like one is harder than the other. I mean, I think situationally you would probably want positive circumstances more than negative circumstances, but I would say just any emotion that doesn't feel familiar to you feels like hard to sit in. One of the things that, like, I really appreciate about some of my friends that have children is that they are really, like, intentional about teaching them emotions. Like, it's not just like happy, sad, mad, or whatever the main ones are, but, like, there's all these, like, other feelings that sometimes we don't identify that we feel that we need to, like, put word to, so that as an adult you could be like, oh yeah, like, I'm not frustrated, I'm envious or something like that, to actually be able to, like, identify what those feelings are. So I'd say I don't know, but I think it's, if I'm not familiar with the feeling, it's always hard for me.
I don't like sitting in emotions that are ones that I specifically don't want associated to my character. And just because I don't want it associated to my character does not mean that I don't experience it, but it just means that, like, I just don't, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to be the type of person who, so therefore I'm unwilling to sit in the emotion associated with it, because then in my mind that means that I am that type of person.
Yeah.
Which is probably an overshoot, right? To just be like, now you're this just because you experienced it, you know? But, like, I've noticed that, like, it's really, really difficult for me to accept emotions where I don't, like I said, it's associated with, like, I don't want this to be a thing that is defining my character or how people experience me.
Yeah, it's tough when you, like, do a lot of work to get past something and then you realize, oh, like, I'm not all the way past that. Or maybe, like, the human experience doesn't allow you to be past that. Like, I don't know if there's ever going to be a point in my life where I'm never jealous or, like, never, I don't know, petty, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that always is going to be there. And maybe there's nothing wrong, like you said, maybe there's nothing wrong with feeling the feeling, but it's what you do after you feel the feeling that actually matters, more so than the fact that you felt the feeling.
How long do you sit in it?
I have a hard time getting over stuff. So for me, sometimes I kind of feel like it's too long.
Really? Okay.
Sometimes I think it's like it's too long. Like, because I'll maybe, like, not say, like, I'm thinking about, like, a specific example. Like, I may not say, like, oh, I'm upset, but, like, I always have that, like, ooh, little tinge of, like, yeah, feeling away, you know?
But is that like because you haven't fully sat in it, so it's technically pushed down and it's not really addressed? Or is it, because I'm like, I'm more like, what do you, well, let me ask that fully, because that's a good question.
Ask you a question too.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say,
you go first. I go first, and
I'm
you
gonna
go.
ask you a question. Ask the question. What do you call sitting in your feelings? What does that mean? Because maybe I don't even do it.
For me, instead of, like, so, like, if let's say I get angry about something, I think that for me to have to, like, sit in it, and anger is, I don't like, maybe hurt, because I feel like a lot of anger stems just from hurt. Yeah, like hurt or disappointed expectations or something like that. I think for me, sitting in it is when I have to, like, really like, be able to name, like, hey, what are you feeling right now, Brittany? At the end of the day, you're feeling hurt, and you're feeling hurt because you had an expectation and it was disappointed. And then, like, kind of working out, like, well, not like why am I here, but, like, what was the circumstances around this that, like, got you here. And then also, like, not intentionally trying to get away from it by doing something, whether that's like, well, I'm gonna just smoke so I don't have to feel, or I'm gonna eat something so I can feel better, or I'm gonna go do this, or I'm gonna go work. Work is definitely an addiction for me, so, like, I'm just gonna go work so I don't have to think about that. Like, literally sitting in my feelings sometimes is like, I need to not do a bunch of other shit so I can really fucking address this. And then there's journaling and all that other stuff that comes into it and comes into play.
Yeah. So I must not be feeling feelings. Sounds like I don't do that. Yeah, that's hard because you want to move past things. You want to get over it. Um, Especially when like I feel like sometimes my head and my heart move at different pace. So like my head could be like we been there, but then my heart is still like, but we not. We still in there, and I want to like override my emotions sometimes and be like, all right, let's move past it so we can grow past it. But I don't take the time to really heal the heart part, you know.
And I think that's real because I felt like that's what I was doing in that moment with like coming in and being like, okay, but then this, and this. It was like my head going like, you know where this is supposed to end, so go be there. And then the emotion in my body is like, we not there, and fuck you.
Do you often feel like your head and heart are aligned?
That's a good question. I don't know if I call it often.
We need a real therapist in here because now I'm like thinking to myself like,
I don't know that I would
like
say. Actually, I would call it like a 60-40 at this age, maybe 70-30. Yeah. I think before not so much, but I think now it's more because I feel like I've been intentionally working on slowing my head down so I can acknowledge my heart. Because I am a very heady person. Like very all the intellectual shit is really valuable and important to me, and operating in that space allows for to me sometimes a certain level of arrogance because you're not actually within your heart to like be humbled by it, you know? So I felt like I've had to work to try to level those out a little bit more, but it's definitely not in a way that I feel like every single time those two things are aligned.
Yeah, I would probably say the same thing. I would say even maybe more often than not there's a misalignment for me. I'd say like I think more rationally than I think I allow emotions to come in, if that makes sense.
Say that one more time.
Like I think I try to use my like brain more than I'm using my heart. But what's funny enough is I think that I'm a very emotional person too.
I was going to say I experience you the opposite way.
And so now that I'm saying it out loud, I kind of think that maybe it's opposite and that I want to be the other way. And that I actually let my emotions lead a lot, and I trick myself into thinking like that's like what I really need to be doing. But if I take a step back, I'm like, oh, yeah, that was a little bit emotionally driven. And I've noticed that a lot actually in my life. The more that I'm thinking about it now, it is like I am very emotional, and I used to be like, I'm not emotional because I don't cry. But I think the way my decision making is very emotional. And that's something that I've had to really work on. And the work in that is not moving so quickly. Because I know, because I'm so emotional, the first thing that I feel is the first thing that I want to do. But that's often extremely emotionally charged. And so I've had to like pause a lot and be like, okay, like, is that really what I want to say? Is that really what I want to do? And that's hard.
And maybe that's kind of just what I mean by like sitting in your feelings is like giving it more time. Like, because I've also been trying to be better about like, if I get triggered by something, I need to give it 48 hours. Like, I need to give it 48 hours because if I don't, and I don't always accomplish this successfully, but if I don't think I'm going to be able. To me, that 48 hours is to kind of allow both of those things to try to level out. Like, if it is a situation where I'm being more heady than emotional, which is usually when I'm in my, like, I'm right, so they'll get over that shit. Or if I'm more emotional and making a decision impulsively, you know, it's like it could be either way. So like the time is meant to be like, all right, let's balance this out. And that also gives me the opportunity to like, I have to like get it out. Like that's for me. Like, and that's what that call with him was. It really was like, hey, I need to get something off my chest. And he's just like, bet, go. And I'm like, and I remember prefacing being like, I'm about to just deliver it how I'm about to deliver it. And I know I'm about to say some wild shit, but it's me and you, and we cool, and this is my brother, and we can have like a really honest conversation, and you won't judge me, and we can come back around to it, and I can just like let it off. And I used to be the person or the individual or the job or the whatever it is, it's getting let off right then. And I'm having to be like, no, you need to have side mechanisms. Yeah. You wildin', bitch. Like, so it's like, get it all out, sit with it for another day, try to be able to journal, all this extra shit. But, and again, I don't say that as if I do it perfectly every single time. Sometimes I'm like, it is just what it is. But like, I try to be better about like, slow down this process to react and also really sit in that, because a lot of times it's like a lot of your own shit that you got to own. Like, it's not really everybody else. Like, it's literally like, you know, like why do you feel that way? Okay, well then, like, what part of that is you?
Yeah. And that is really hard. The Occasionally Accountable podcast. It's hard to be accountable. I sometimes feel like if I were to slow down, I'll like miss an opportunity to say the thing that I should have said in the moment. Like, if I like let something breathe, I'm like, am I not standing up for myself by not like immediately reacting? Like, is stepping away from it in some way like I don't know, like not standing up for myself.
That you got me fucked up, so now I gotta make sure you don't got me fucked up.
Yeah, or like if you let something breathe for too long and then it maybe wasn't a huge offense but triggered you, if you come back around to it 48 hours, they're gonna be like, wait, what are you talking about? Or like, I didn't say that, or that. Like, I feel like it adds space for like miscommunication too for some reason. That could be an inaccurate thought, but
I think it does add space for like the memory loss for sure.
Especially me.
On both ends, like both people, because you experience something and you see it through a certain lens. Like, I still remember talking to my parents about like, hey, I said something to them like, yeah, like y'all never came to like any of my games. They were like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, we have pictures at your games, bitch. Like, and I was like, oh wait, what? And then I'm like, oh, my memory has done it this way to create the narrative, right? So like, I understand that time does do that. Give me 1 second before I snap. We're good. Okay. Time does do that, but to me, it's just like, even that, like, but at the end of the day, like, low key, that's your ego. You know what I'm saying? Like, even, and I think that kind of something that I remember, what's his name said? Andrew had said when we did the other pod, like, when you were like, well, somebody calls you anywhere, you got to react. And he was like, I don't know if I got a reaction for that. It just depends. And I think there's something about like, as I get older and you start having shit to lose, you have to give a fuck about how you react. Like, because you can't just be out here doing, I mean, you could. But it's like, you could be fucking up your shit, your own stuff. You can be fucking up relationships that you're going to need. You're going to be fucking up like your ability to do things. People won't want to work with you. Like, there's a lot of other stuff that comes with it that I'm like, you kind of need to be able to slow down and be calmer. Because that's another thing I feel like a lot of like people in psychology, therapy, spiritual people are like, you know, like getting angry and going off and all that other stuff. Like, you let them control all of that shit. And I'm like, that's hard. It's because so hard. Also, like, I feel like if you got me fucked up, you need to understand the consequences for your actions.
Immediately. Like, not in 48 hours. Yeah, I mean, and it's like...
Okay, Aries back there.
I feel like also, too, when you're, like, emotionally led, I feel like there's more of, like, a visceral reaction than, like, when you... Like, it takes a lot for me to not act emotionally. Like, I literally have to walk away or take a breath or step, because we was in the movie theater and I said something wild, it flew out of my mouth. It wasn't even like it ever went up here. It just came out of my mouth.
We won't repeat that, but that shit was fucking
Brittany
wild.
and Becky were both there, and I was like, oh, it shocked me.
It shocked the fucking theater.
It might have
because it was quiet
theater.
as hell and everybody heard it. That shit was hilarious. I was like, and you heard the whole theater go, oh.
And that's how I be. Like, it doesn't. And that is a very the older I get, the more I realize that's a very immature way to exist in the world. You gotta learn how to grab on to the things that you say and not let them just fly out of your mouth and fly off of the handle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think, to kind of like close it out, I do think that one thing I did value about that space was I got to, like, he was already like, B, just say it. Like, say it however you need to say it and do whatever. And I had, like, the thought of, like, I kind of envisioned it in a way of, like, I kind of just need to, like, get the mess out here on the table. And then the rest of the time we talked, it was literally a space for me to, like, detangle the mess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was like, okay, in this mess, I think of like a bunch of cords that are tied up and knotted together, and one of those cords is your ego. And you got to get in that mess and figure out what cord it is and pull that bitch out before you go address anything.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was a good space to be like, here's the mess. All right, now let's talk. And let's pull the ego cord out of it. And then let's address what the real issue is. Because I think the other thing, too, is like, how do you address, like, if I'm addressing an issue with the intention of staying in relationship, I feel as though I have a responsibility to, when it's time to come to this, like, I need to be able to identify and express what I'm really upset about.
Yeah. Because
the snapback isn't what you're upset about. The snapback is, you stung me, I'm about to whoop that ass, whether it's verbally or physically.
And what I get so caught up in is when both people are reacting, I grab onto the reactions and not the root cause. So now we're arguing about something that happened 4 weeks ago that, like, neither of us actually cared about, but he said something, so I had to say something. Like, and then now we're getting nowhere. And that's a really great point. And the less you do that, the less people have to react to, and we can actually get to the root of, like, what we're really talking about.
And then it gets dangerous because if you grasping that shit and they grasp at something that hits a little too hard, you about to grasp at some shit to be like, finish him. Like,
that was below the belt.
Right? You go low, bitch, I'm going to hell. Like, and it's like, damn, none of this did anything. So that's, I mean, and also let me say, I'm not perfect. So I try this with people I care about, or situations I care about, or if it's a work situation that I have to be in. If you just a random person, the way. The way I don't give a fuck, bro. And all of that lag time, I'd be like, no.
You know what's kind of weird about me? Like, if it's a random person, I'm probably overly respectful.
What?
Because I feel like I'm like, I don't want them to think. Like, it's definitely like that people pleasing, like, we talked about this before, respectability politics sort of thing. But if I know you, that's when I'm like, that's when I get a little bit spicy. And that's so weird because, like, those are the people that you should probably be a little bit, easier with.
Yeah. It'd be like that.
It does.
So, yeah, y'all, feel y'all feelings. Sit in that shit a little bit longer and figure out what's in there. There's always information in there. Like, go get into the information in there and figure out what's really the issue. But also, like, shout out to places where you, like, have the trust to be able to, like, just unload. And the thing, too, is, like, Lex in particular is such a dope person because there's never anything I could say that he's going to be like, Brittany, you're being hella crazy. Like, he's like, okay, like, you're like, this range of emotion isn't that wild, Brittany. Like,
yeah,
I really did some crazy shit. So, like, this is normal. But I think to have the safe space to kind of, like, unload it, but also to, like, work through it, is hella valuable. And
now, if someone doesn't have a safe space, what do you have a suggestion on what they could do?
Go get one.
Unload? Okay. Thank you.
Go get some better friends. If you ain't got no better friends, it's you. No, I'm just playing. That's disrespectful. No, the only other suggestion I would have is, like, journaling, like writing it out before you speak on it, because I feel like when you have to write it out and you can read it back, it's easier to be like, all right. Like, if you write out everything you was going to say and you see all the times where you just really taking shots and saying shit about the issue, it's like, yeah. And then that nigga also had me fucked up 13 weeks ago when they put 14 birthday candles on my cake. And in reality, you know, you like, wait, what? Like, this is not. So I would say, like, or if you don't want to write, voice notes are also a thing. Sometimes I don't really do voice notes for when I'm, like, frustrated, but I know people who do, like, when they're dealing with complex emotions, they just talk into their voice notes, and they circle back to it, and then kind of dissect it, and then use that to then initiate whatever, like, conversation that they need.
Because sometimes your hand be cramping up, and that make you even more, and pen go out, then you ripping pages. I like the voice note.
Can't get it out fast enough.
Can't write fast enough, and my spelling be off the chart. Like, and she... orange?
I would love to see Bree write one, and when you read it,
y'all know my spelling.
Put it on the screen and have it go across.
My spelling is giving lack of chromosomal support. But that's me. See what I said about thinking about what you say before you say it?
Oh my god. I'm hot as fuck. Oh my god. But that's me. All right, as we move into our second segment of the show, which is called previously our post show. It's called The Segment until y'all tell us what to call it. All right, so I recently had some friends in town. Okay. And we got into a very fun conversation about what does corny mean?
Like when you're eating too much corn?
Oh my god. Anyways.
That was corny. But I'm fat.
Whew. Sorry. Okay. It's so hot on top of that. Okay. So context of the story they were referring to, they weren't referring, this is an example that was given, was that Michael B. Jordan was recently called corny, I think by Joe Budden and other people. For there was a red carpet interview. He kind of like this. He was kind of like, you used to not bully me.
That girl from Bully and the Beast podcast.
That's what she's from.
Yeah.
I didn't know who that bitch was.
So technically.
So I mean,
Bully and the Beast.
He was basically like, yeah, you used to call me corny, whatever. And then she was just like, oh my God, what are you? And he was like, nah, bitch, you had me fucked up.
Yeah.
And walked off. And then supposedly he got called corny for that, blah, blah, blah. And I also do think I've often heard people call Michael B. Jordan corny. I don't know if I used the word corny, but I did call him something. I
think I also did call him corny. I think I did. Yeah.
And so I was like, I was kind of interested, is like, when we talk about someone as corny, what do we really mean? Because I feel like one of the things we had talked about was like, I think this word has a broader definition or has multiple definitions based on the person who's saying it, based on the person you're talking about. And it's kind of just like contextually understood sometimes or not. But what does corny mean to you?
What was Joe Budden? Why did he say he was corny? I didn't see that interview.
If I remember correctly, it was something along the lines of like, you are coming at this woman, you know, like which is wild that Joe Budden all of a sudden wants to be a feminist. But go ahead.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I get that. I mean, I feel like if it's a man and a woman, it's two different things. Like I feel like if you are a woman and you call a dude corny, like. I get a picture of Urkel.
Like versus Stefan.
Yeah, it's like Urkel versus Stefan. Like, it's like a dude that, like, maybe is like a rule follower or, like, is lame. I don't like to use the word lame, but, like, a rule follower or, like, a straight edge, I think is kind of what I would imagine, like, corny would be. I personally love corny niggas. Like, I'm a fan. But I know women be like, oh, he's so corny, and like be chasing the BMF cast and crew.
Also, not inaccurate, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you think that like when you call have you ever called multiple people corny for different reasons, but use the same terminology? Like, is the reason that you find Diddy corny the same reason you would have called Michael B. Jordan corny?
No. But let me simmer on that. So Michael B. Jordan might be corny because of the fact that he's maybe straight edge. Maybe that's what the general consensus is. Diddy might be corny because he killed Big. So, like, I feel like... Well, I'm sorry, he didn't kill him. But, you know.
Allegedly. Every camera allegedly.
Allegedly. Wink, wink. But, so, I feel like, yeah, I guess those are two different cornies. I guess those are two different things. I think those are two different things. Yeah. Maybe it's when who that person is doesn't line up with what they do. Maybe that's corny. Maybe.
So when people, is it who they is or who they are projecting themselves to be doesn't really line up who they are in real life? I think
it's who they're projecting themselves to be isn't who they are in real life. Love is Blind. I don't know if you watched it. You didn't watch it. Okay. Well, there's this character on Love is Blind, Baptiste. I feel like Baptiste is a very corny dude. Very, very corny dude. But the reason why I think he's corny is exactly that. Who he's portraying himself to be was not who he actually was. And I think that's super corny.
I 100% agree about that. Insecurity... And it's not, maybe that's the wrong word. It's not a man who's insecure, because I feel like everybody is insecure in some way, shape, or form. But it's like when you overcompensate for that insecurity by being hella like egotistical and prideful in some other arena, that shit for me always comes off as corny. Because I do feel like if you are a straight-laced guy and you stand 10 toes in being a straight-laced guy. It's confident. And maybe you have, because I think everybody has corny aspects. Yeah. But nonetheless, we all got it. I know I be doing corny shit all the time. But I am like, if you're 10 toes down in who you are, that's less like corny to me than if you're like trying to be somebody. You know you're not the thing that you're trying to be, but you keep trying to project that you are. And
maybe that's why Joe Budden said Michael B. Jordan was corny, because we don't imagine Michael B. Jordan the person that's checking a female on the red carpet about something that happened in high school. Like, in my mind, I don't imagine him like that. I imagine him like Lori Harvey, loving on her, being a good guy. But when he did that, it was a little bit like, that's kind of a weird thing to do. Because he doesn't move like that typically.
Yeah. And I think I've called him corny before that, though. And it had to do with, like, feeling like you're not hyper masculine, which is toxic, which is absolutely toxic. I can acknowledge that.
So is corny and, I don't know if we can say pussy, but is corny and that different?
In my head it is. But I said, I think the definition is different for every person. I think that, I don't know, like being scary, let's call them that. Yeah, because I don't know what platform we are allowed to say what, and if it gets clipped, it gets clipped. Being scary is not an issue. Let me rephrase that. Being scary is less of an issue for me if you stand in that. It's still the like, if you trying to tell everybody like, oh, da 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 da, and I'm running shit and da da da, and like I'm the man and blah blah blah, and like all this shit, but in reality some shit pop off and you being a bitch somewhere, like that's corny as fuck. Like, if you not that nigga, don't pretend to be that nigga. Like,
that's fair.
But in the same breath, I was going to say I don't feel like if you are someone who is a little more scary, or not even scary, just like I'm avoid dangerous situations, because why the fuck would I be in one? Like, if you're that kind of nigga, like, I don't think that should be called corny. Have I called people corny that I thought were doing that? Probably.
I went on a date with this guy once, and we had that conversation about should a guy stand on the The side where the cars are. It was that left side. Whatever. Wherever there's cars, guys should stand on that side. You stand on the inside of them. And he was like, well, why would I do that? Because if a car is going to hit you or hit me, it's definitely going to hit you. It's not like the car going to bounce off of me. And then, and I was like, you made a point, but that's scary. Like, it's a small gesture that I feel like doesn't even require that much. But the fact that he was standing in it, like, no, we just going to stand where we stand. I'm like, I felt like that was very scary.
Okay. Oh, you mean like yeah, pussy, basically.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Because I thought you meant like you were scared. I was like, why were you scared? But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Ooh, when you give that example, low key, like if I was walking down the street and a man stood on the outside of me and I made a comment about it and he didn't get on the inside, I'd be like, oh yeah, you corny as fuck.
And they had like justification behind it. Like he stood in it, but I was like, that's so corny because like it's not even that big of a deal. It's not about if a car hits you, obviously it's gonna hit me. But it's just the gesture. Like you don't have to tell me that.
And that the reason why I would call him corny would be tied to masculinity.
Yeah.
I would just be like, what? Like you're supposed to put yourself in, like, if it's the safety and the possible danger, put yourself in between as a protector. And if you're not choosing to be a protector, this is how I'm processing. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but this is how I process it. If you're not trying to be a protector, then you for sure not trying to be my nigga. I know that.
For sure. Like, what are you operating in if you're not operating in that? It's giving.
Stop.
We won't do 2 in 1 episode. We won't do 2 in 1 episode. We won't do 2 in 1 episode. But it is not my cup of tea. It's not my preference. It's not my sexual preference.
We said we not. Then we came back around to it.
I did it. It's just not my preference.
That's funny. No, yeah, I would be, yeah, I don't know. And there's a lot of things that, like, I mean, let me say this. One of the points that one of the friends was trying to bring home, which I valued, was like, he was like, a lot of females call a lot of shit corny that is really just someone who isn't trying to be this like hyper toxic masculine hood nigga, like blah blah blah, and then you call niggas corny, and then
they feel like they need to do that.
Yeah, and then on top of that, there's the other part that comes in of like, then y'all get older and then y'all want to give a fuck about the corny nigga because you realize the hood nigga is always gonna be ancient ass nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, so now you want to go to the corny nigga because now you care about, you've emotionally matured and blah 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 blah. So all that point I get and I understand, and I also agree with, because it's like we always talk about, I think there are ways that we as women play into patriarchy just the same way that men are playing into it as well. But I don't know. Sometimes I call shit corny when I just feel like you ain't got no swag to you. Like, like you ain't got no sauce, nigga.
I don't know if you feel this way, but I sometimes do, where it's like, I wouldn't want my homegirl seeing me with somebody that's like corny. Like it almost is partially. It's like, I don't want people to think that I'm with Urkel. I mean, like, I like corny niggas, so at this point I don't care. But like when I was in that energy, like that's more of what it was. Even if it was my preference, I was like, well, society tells me I need to be with the whatever type of dude.
I need a soldier.
Yeah, and then you
fucking
get it.
Destiny's Child ruined it for us.
us.
Why would you even get on that hook, Michelle? You love the Lord.
You get a dude and you realize like that's not what you.
God no.
That definitely wasn't my ministry at all. We've already talked about it. I'm not lying on this stand for you. I'm not lying for anyone for you. If it's you, me, in the jail cell, baby, I'm not in it. I don't care whose fault it was. It's not finna be me.
And if snitching is corny, boy,
then
we gonna be corn.
Call me corn on the cob, baby. I am corny.
Boy, candy corn.
What I'm not finna do.
Cause y'all not about to have me on no shirt talking about free my nigga B. Like, we not doing that.
No, we're not. No, we're not. I'll make you a GoFundMe and wish you well. But I'm not
even gonna manage it.
But just like put in your mama name and wish you well, because I know she don't know how to use the computer. I know she don't. So that's the best I can do.
That's real.
That's the best I can do for you.
That's real.
Shout out to the corny niggas, and I also think that, like, to the point I made earlier, like, just be who you are. I
Yeah.
think so many men miss that of, like, you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. You're not. But the person that wants you and is down for you and is interested in you will come to you if you're just open and honest about it.
Yeah.
Where we start calling you out of your name and this, that, and the other is when we start to realize that you're not who you said that you were. And when you stop being able to keep up the facade and all that stuff, then yeah, now we're calling you this, that, and the other. But if you just are who you are, somebody's going to respect it. Oh, my stomach. Sorry.
I do that. Just somebody you like it somewhere.
I love a corny dude, like I said. So
no, that's real.
I'm good with it.
That's real. I love
not a corny. I like a nerdy dude.
No. I was gonna say I like a little corn. It needs to be. It just shows up in a certain way. I like the nerdy shit.
Yeah.
I like when people are really excited about whatever they're excited about, whatever they love. If you love it and you're really excited, I don't know. I feel like that's exciting, but I think people could look at that as corny.
Yeah.
But yeah, the only thing I will say is like, I do want you to have a little swag too.
Yeah.
You know? And I think the swag actually comes from confidence. So maybe that circles all the way back around because I think, yeah, actually, you know what? It's confidence.
It's confidence.
Confidence does lend to the swag.
Yeah.
And know how to dress a little bit. And there we go.
And let me rephrase that. I don't want to say that I love corny niggas because I think corny is a negative thing. But I do like people that are a little more nerdy, non-traditional into their thing, and that's not corny. We're humans. We're not. You told me this before. Like, we're not in high school anymore. There's no cool kids. So like, do you, and somebody's gonna love it.
We getting loved out here. All right, beautiful, amazing people. This has been another episode of the Occasionally Accountable podcast.
It has. Thank y'all so much for listening and rocking with us. Y'all the best.
Real wins. You can find us on Lord Jesus, my throat. You can find us on our 2 social media platforms right now, which is TikTok and Instagram at @the_OA podcast. I know I'm closing my eyes and that's not a good decision, but I was trying to visualize what everything was. @the_OA podcast. And then you can find us on YouTube at the Occasionally Accountable podcast. And we appreciate y'all for rocking with us.
Thanks, y'all. And we will catch you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.